Do you find your child constantly doing things they shouldn't, and the more you try to address it, the more they keep doing it? Well, that's not bad behavior, that's effective behavior. Because if they can get your attention by acting out, they'll keep doing it. So in this video, you'll learn 3 clear steps on how to shift that dynamic so that your child tries to get your attention in positive ways instead. Let's find out how. You may have heard of the expression, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Well, for our kids, we can tweak that a little, and it's, there's no such thing as bad attention. Attention is attention, no matter how you get it. And again, for our kids on the autism spectrum, they don't always have the skills, the language to appropriately engage people, to come talk to them, to be with them, whatever it may be. So instead of being able to say, hey, mommy, come sit with me, let me do something I shouldn't, that brings mom over because she needs to now deal with me. Typically, we see a lot of these issues with a child refusing to eat, and it's like, come on, eat, and you're talking and you're engaging with them, and they're like, no. And a lot of times they don't have to say very much, or just have to pout and not do what they want to do. And so that brings you over more and more. And the more you try to coerce them and convince them of what they need to do, the more they're like, no, no. But all that time, it's maintaining that kind of disagreement, that kind of conflict, and you're just going back and forth and back and forth. You see it with getting ready for bed or for getting dressed in the morning. They're supposed to be getting dressed and they won't, or they won't put on their clothes, and then you come on, put them on, and then they're trying to take them off, and you're trying to put them back on, and you're spending all this time. Now this, in your mind, I'm sure does not feel like quality time, because it isn't. But for the child, they don't see it any different. Like, I have mommy or I have daddy with me, or grandma or grandpa, whoever, with me this whole time. Even though it seems really negative to you, you're there with them, and that's ultimately what they want. So inadvertently, we end up feeding this behavior, this inappropriate, negative, attention-seeking behavior. So another example would be, you tell your child to put their toys away, and they ignore you, and you tell them again, and they ignore you, and you say it again, and they ignore you, and then you start to lose it, and then you raise your voice, and that may be effective, but they needed that attention from you. Not like, hey, clean up your toys and you're doing your thing, but now you're like, clean up your toys, and now you're really upset. So actually, we touched on this in my previous video about behavior-specific directions and how to work with that, so make sure to check that out. But here, there's so many examples in life, and I'm sure you can go on all the different things where you kind of end up in this kind of conflict with your child. So let's take a look at some of these strategies that we can implement. So for our first strategy here, you want to catch them being good. Now that sounds easier than it actually is. It's like we don't even think about it. When kids are doing what they're supposed to, when they're sitting watching TV, you don't run over and say, I love how you're watching TV. I love how you're playing on your iPad. I mean, that sounds nuts, but it's actually something along the lines of catching them being good. So you give attention to those positive things. Now, if they're always going to get your attention by doing something negative, then that's just what they're going to keep doing. So we have to change that up. If you only give attention when things go wrong, that's what they'll keep doing to get it. So we definitely want to praise the little wins. And I've actually worked with a client one time, adorable child, challenging also, and we kind of joke because it was like, okay, let's try and catch them being good. It's like that was really hard to do sometimes, and we kind of like, oh, I like how you blink, nice breathing, because it was hard to find something really positive to say. But that's an extreme, and I say that in jest, in that really you want to, the little things, again, the things you would never think of to say, and that's where you have to be really self-aware, because it's really difficult. I've had times I'll be with a child, an adult comes over to talk to me, I'm talking to them for a moment, the child's standing there and they're not acting out. If they started touching, hey hon, stop doing that, stop doing that. And that's how they get your attention, like, hey, over here, stop talking to that adult, pay attention to me over here. So a lot of times you're with your child, you're talking to an adult, and they're actually standing still and they're doing really well. And 5 minutes into that conversation, then they start to act up. Then you give them attention, then you stop your talking with the adult, and they've just been very successful in making that, getting your attention back, and ending that interaction with the other person, which they didn't want. So what should have happened would be a minute in, while they're standing there nicely, like, honey, I love how you're standing nicely, hold mommy's hand, great job, and go back to your conversation for a moment and come back. Also be realistic with the age of your child, how long you can actually hang out and talk to someone with a small child with you. Could be an older child, it doesn't really matter, but making sure you're praising them along the way, how they are waiting really nicely. If they're getting those doses of attention from you, that's enough to kind of sustain them, because what actually happens is they're being good, we don't even think about it because they're quiet, and until they kick up, then we start paying attention. It's like the idea of the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So get squeaky and they're going to get the oil. I mean, you even see it with adults. You go to the store sometimes and you hear someone carrying on some adult with the I want to talk to the manager, and they just kick it up because they're trying to get their way, they're trying to get the attention. And so they get nice and loud, they really act out, and that's often effective. It's kind of sad for an adult, but it's effective. So we want to kind of circumvent that and be providing like a regular dose of attention for things and stuff you wouldn't even think about. You go to try to start dinner and your child's on their tablet, and because you know, oh good, they're busy, I know they get engrossed in it, I can do this, I can send an email, I can do whatever I need to do. But what you really want to do is even if you need a timer, like a minute or two, like something that goes off your mind, you're like, oh honey, I love how you're sitting there so nicely, you know, dinner's going to be in about 10 minutes or whatever. Just take that time, remember, like, oh look, they're doing something they should. So this is really tricky. It sounds easy, but what we want to do is swing the pendulum the other way, because right now they're getting all this attention for doing things they shouldn't. It's quick, it's easy. They don't have to do much. They have to just not listen. They have to just say no. They just have to drop to the ground. They just have to do any little thing to bring you over and get that attention, but it's for a negative reason. So that's how it normally goes. When they're doing what they should, it's crickets. So we want to kind of start providing attention over here too, catch them being good, so they don't need to go to that negative all the time. They're getting a steady, regular dose of positive attention. And so that negative attention, they won't always be their go-to, because right now it's their go-to. And we see with children on the autism spectrum, a lot of times they don't have that language to communicate as well. So we still have to capture them being good. They'll realize when they're doing something they should, and they're going to get attention for it, they're going to keep doing it. It's positive reinforcement, that you reinforce a behavior that you want to see more of. But right now, and it's natural as parents, you know, as humans, we're going to give attention to what they shouldn't be doing. And so if we're going to keep doing that, then they're going to keep doing more negative behavior, because that's what we're reinforcing. So for our second strategy, provide immediate, specific praise. The magic is catching them in the moment. So if your child, you tell them to clean up their toys, or just could you put this on the table? And they just go to do it immediately on the first time, say, praise that. I like how you listened on the first time. Just so those little things, like, make sure it's immediate, be behavior specific. So, you know, I like how you cleaned up all your toys. Not like, oh, great job, but great job with cleaning up your toys. That was really nice how you helped your brother find his socks. So those things, you want to be really specific. Or again, with my other example of this playing on their iPad, I like how you're playing on your iPad, like a big kid, whatever it may be. But it should be behavior specific and immediate. Catch it in that moment, be really specific. And I have another video, like I mentioned before, where we cover avoiding using no and don't, and providing behavior specific praise when they're doing what they need to do. Even as adults, we like to be told, nice work on that project, thanks for getting that to me by Wednesday. Something specific, and just having positive attention, it kind of keeps us going. We all need that positive reinforcement, and our kids are no different. So it's really important to have like a steady drip, drip, drip of positive attention. Then because your child sees that's what gets attention. I feel good, I see mommy or daddy, they feel good. And it's a positive snowball effect. So the more everyone, like, I get attention, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, and as a parent, you're happier, so you're in a better frame of mind to maintain that positive attention and positive reinforcement. So that's the type of snowball effect we want to see happen. So our third strategy is to remove attention when they're not listening. Here, it's when you give a direction and they're, no, I'm not going to do it. And so part of it, now you want to maintain a direction sometimes, but you don't want to get into that fight where there's a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's like, I need you to clean up your toys. No, I don't want to. And so a lot of times, instead of like, you heard me and getting upset and getting right in it right away, you're going to pull back. They want to see you engage. They want that engagement. It's negative and they want to see it because that's okay. It also delays them having to do it. But you just pull back and you stay calm, and less words, the better. Like, you should never get yourself in a yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Like when I've seen adults do that with their kids and you get into that yes, no battle, it's like you've just gone down to the little kid level. Like, you're not engaging. Think about it, even if like with your partner, you get in a fight and you're going back, yes, no, you know, okay, good, we're still going, we're in it. But when one of you kind of decides, I'm checking out of this, I'm not going to keep arguing with you, it's like, it's kind of hard. It's like fighting with just one hand. It doesn't go very far. So you want to remove attention, stay calm, and removing attention means not talking a lot of the time. I know it's really hard for parents to not explain, well, you need to do this because blah, 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 blah. You need to just pull back. And so a lot of times it could be a matter of just telling a child to clean up their toys, and they're not listening, and you just point to the toys. You don't look at them while you do it. You just kind of look at the toys and point. You're not talking, you're not saying anything. And once they start, then you can provide attention. Nice job, I like how you're cleaning up. You may even start to help them a little bit to get them going. Not you do it, but hand over hand, help them, and then give them that praise once they start doing it. So they need to also see that, or it could be simple as like a tantrum, drop into the ground, where there's nothing, but like where they just are looking for pure attention. They don't want to come in, they don't want to take off their shoes, drop to the ground, walk away. I mean, if it's safe, you walk away, remove that attention. And then they'll be like, okay, what do I do with this? They're supposed to hang out, they're supposed to talk to me. Oh, come on, get up. And then they'll drop, and then they keep doing it. And there's a whole big, crazy, messy looking situation. So we want to get rid of that too. So remove attention from the negative, bring a lot of attention to the positive. So if you understand, again, swinging that pendulum from all that negative attention, start putting a lot more positive attention. So we come somewhere in the middle here. So you're catching them being good, you're praising the small things, but on a regular, steady diet of that. And so when they get used to that, and all of a sudden they do something they shouldn't, and then you remove your attention, it's like, oh, clearly that's not going to get mommy or daddy's attention, but doing this really did. They always like when I do this, and they really like and talk to me when I do that. But when I start doing that, it's like you feel the wind blow through and the tumbleweed comes by, and like you just turn off. You're not angry. It's just the absence of the positive reinforcement. So I'm like, hey babe, that's great, wonderful, whatever. And all of a sudden they start doing something. I need you to put that down. And if they don't, then you just walk away. Then they do it, like, great, all right, keep going. So it's almost like that negative behavior almost like turns you off. Otherwise, you're on and you're being positive and reinforcing and giving them attention for doing things they should. So at first, I know all these strategies may seem unnatural, but the more you practice them, it'll become easier, and it'll just help with improving your child's behavior. We all do better when we get positive reinforcement, and the more your child can get attention for that, the more they'll do things that are positive to get that attention. And again, especially for our children who are on the autism spectrum, they don't always have the ability to communicate, so we want them to learn that even through their actions, positive actions, they can get our attention as opposed to the negative actions. And also, in the end, children don't learn from punishment. Although punishment, short-term, like really loud and scary, that may be effective temporarily, but long-term it is not effective. And so positive reinforcement will help maintain those behaviors, help increase to see those behaviors in the future. Consistency with these strategies and clarity on what will get your attention in a positive way is really important. Remember, kids do what works. So if positive behavior starts getting the best attention, they'll be doing more of it. And that's ultimately what we want. So think about maybe something today where you can catch them being good, and let me know in the comment section below. Again, it's a simple thing, yet very challenging to catch yourself, because now we're talking about your own behavior and being tuned in and realizing when your child is actually doing things they should be doing. So also check out my other video on breaking the cycle of using no and don't and what you can say instead. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I always appreciate comments, so please leave them in the comment section below. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.